War and Peace, Chapter 11. In Sapiens. Oh man, stuff on stuff here. Okay. But anyway, guys, Twitch folk, Twitch fam. Sapiens. Just a quick recap from today. You both, to paraphrase, still talking about capitalism and the toll that it's had. It's, I would say, let me think about how to describe it. It's kind of like a house, I guess, that you're living in. You're maybe not perfectly happy with the house, but it's where you stay. And I think that's kind of how capitalism is kind of likened to. It's like a rug, and we don't want to pull it out just yet because we don't want to destabilize the entire system. But in my take and in my view, it's a matter of time until we find a better alternative. And he's talking a little bit about the negative toll that capitalism has had. Capitalism is the reason for the Atlantic slave trade. People might allude to racism, and they might say, well, it's because they're black. But it wasn't because they're black. It's because they needed someone to work. They needed people to harvest the cotton. They pretty much. They needed someone to keep the farms going. It's kind of like in today's day and age, it's like why they have undocumented immigrants working in similar capacities, like as farmers, as laborers. It's like they're doing the jobs that are harder, that no one else wants to do. And it's probably better now than it used to be, because back in the olden days, if those same slaves and laborers didn't put out 100%, like if they didn't return numbers that the puppeteer, I don't know, I guess the owner of the enterprise, if they weren't happy with those numbers, they would chop off their arms. They would murder by millions, basically. Millions of Africans lost their lives, particularly in the Congo, because of that. And yeah, it's because of the dollar. That's the reason why. But anyway, all right, let's move on to chapter 11 in War and Peace. Okay, let's see, where am I? Chapter 11. Silence ensued. The Countess looked at her callers, smiling affably, but not concealing the fact that she would not be distressed if they now rose and took their leave. The visitor's daughter was already smoothing down her dress with an inquiring look at her mother. When suddenly from the next room were heard the footsteps of boys and girls running to the door, and the nose of a chair falling over, and a girl of 13, hiding something in the folds of her short muslin frost darted in and stopped short in the middle of the room. It was evident that she had not intended her flight to bring her so far. Behind her in the doorway appeared a student with a crimson coat collar, an officer of the guards. A girl of 15 and a plump, rosy-faced boy in a short jacket. The Count jumped up and, swaying from side to side, spread his arms wide and threw them around the little girl who had run in. "Ah, here she is," he exclaimed, laughing. "Ha ha ha. My pet, whose name it is, my dear pet. Ma chérie. There is a time for everything," said the Countess with feigned severity. "To every season, turn, turn, turn." The birds. I think I'm singing off key. There is a season, turn, turn, turn. Yeah, that's basically what the Count is saying here. Alright, where am I? With feigned severity. "You spoil her, Ilya," she added, turning to her husband. Okay, let me bring my book closer so it's easier for me. Okay. "How do you do, my dear? I wish you many happy returns of your name day," said the visitor. "What a charming child," she had added, addressing the mother. "This black-eyed, wide-mouthed girl, not pretty but full of life, with childish bare shoulders, which after her run heaved and shook her bodice." Hold on, guys. A bodice. Badice. Yeah, it's either bodice or badice. Bodice. It's the part of a woman's dress that is above the waist. There you go. Upper part. With black curls tossed backward, thin bare arms, little legs in lace-frilled drawers, and feet in low slippers. Was just at that charming age when a girl is no longer a child, though the child is not yet a young woman. Adolescence, basically, teen years. Escaping from her father, she ran to hide her flushed face in the lace of her mother's mantilla. Okay, a mantilla. I want to look it up. Hold on, you guys. What does it mean? For some reason, it keeps going to the next word. Yeah, it keeps going to the next word. Hold on a second. A mantilla is a traditional Spanish lace or silk veil or shawl worn over the head and shoulders. Yeah, I don't think I've seen this. It kind of reminds me of a wedding veil, the mantilla. Hold on, let me see if I can show you guys. Yeah, hold on a second. It looks kind of like that. Yeah, like, I don't see those all that often. I think they're like in wedding ceremonies and stuff like that. Not paying the least attention to her severe remark, and began to laugh. I think it was probably more common in the olden days. Like balls and stuff. People would be wearing those. Began to laugh. She laughed and, in fragmentary sentences, tried to explain about a doll, which she produced from the folds of her frock. Do you see? My doll, Mimi. You see, was all Natasha managed to utter. To her, everything seemed funny. She leaned against her mother and burst into such a loud, ringing fit of laughter that even the prim visitor could not help joining in. Now then, go away and take your monstrosity with you, said the mother, pushing away her daughter with a pretended sternness, and turning to the visitor, she added, She's my youngest girl. Natasha, raising her face for a moment from her mother's mantilla, glanced up at her through the tears of laughter and again hid her face. The visitor, compelled to look on at this family scene, thought it necessary to take some part in it. Tell me, my dear, said she to Natasha, is Mimi a relation of yours? A daughter, I suppose? Natasha did not like the visitor's tone of condescension to childish things. She did not reply, but looked at her seriously. Meanwhile, the younger generation, Boris, the officer, Anna Mikhailovna's son, Nicholas, the undergraduate, the Count's eldest son, Sonia, the Count's 15-year-old niece, and little Petya, this youngest boy, had all settled down in the drawing room and were obviously trying to restrain within the bounds of decorum the excitement and mirth that shone in all their faces. Evidently in the back rooms, from which they had dashed out so impetuously, the conversation had been more assuming than the drawing room talk of society's scandals, the weather, and Countess Apraxina. Now and then they glanced at one another, hardly able to suppress their laughter. The two young men, the student and the officer, friends from childhood, were of the same age and both handsome fellows, though not alike. Boris was tall and fair, and his calm and handsome face had regular, delicate features. Nicholas was short with curly hair and an open expression. Dark hairs were already showing on his upper lip, and his whole face expressed impetuosity and enthusiasm. Nicholas blushed when he entered the drawing room. He evidently tried to find something to say, but failed. Boris, on the contrary, at once found his footing, and related quietly and humorously how he had known that doll Mimi, when she was still quite a young lady, before her nose was broken, how she had aged during the 5 years that he had known her, and how her head had cracked right across the skull. Having said this, he glanced at Natasha. She turned away from him and glanced at her younger brother, who was screwing up his eyes and shaking with suppressed laughter, and unable to control herself any longer, she jumped up and rushed from the room, as fast as her nimble little feet would carry her. Boris didn't laugh. You were meaning to go out, weren't you, Mama? Do you want the carriage? He asked his mother with a smile. Yes, go and tell them to get ready, she answered, returning his smile. Boris quietly left the room and went in search of Natasha. The plump boy ran after them angrily, as if vexed that their program had been disturbed. Alright, that was chapter 11. This book is pretty long, so thank you for joining me for this series as well. Music, guys, is a quick update. I am continuing to practice. I'll try to be as diligent about it as I can. I'm just continuously practicing my musical talent and abilities. The song that I'm currently working on is called Ballade, Ballade. It sounds really cool and classical. I'm trying to make more progress too in terms of pop songs. Colorblind is a song that I'm pretty good at this point, by Counting Crows, but excuse me, there are other songs that I'm trying to learn. Like I think I've always been trying Videotape by Radiohead. Married Life and Up is another one that I'm like just keep continuously trying to practice. It's probably going to be a while before I'm able to showcase them on stream, but in the meantime, thanks for watching. Thank you for joining me. Stormer Show signing off.